Alright, today we are going to solve Battle 7 of the Road to Las Vegas Microsoft Excel World Championship. So let's give you a quick overview and get straight into it. So for this case, we basically have a table of historical figures, what field they are in, so you know what their chosen subject is, their birth year, and then we have a hand dominance, foot dominance, and eye dominance, which are going to represent either left or right. And there is a table here to tell you which letter is in which language. And then finally we have a genetic decay ratio, which comes into the questions later, and it builds up to, you know, someone's eye dominance changing from left to right or vice versa once their genetic decay reaches a certain value, and that value increases each year by a set amount. So let's do a little bit of prep work. I know that I'm going to be looking up kind of right, left-handedness and so on and so on. So this table, we want to just kind of rearrange it slightly to make it easier to look everything up. So I'm actually going to pull this out to here, and I know that that is actually going to be the symbol for left, so let's say left, and then the right is going to be here, and the names here, and the languages are going to be here, so let's call that right. So that's just going to make it way easier to look things up. Anyway, let's get into the case questions. That's pretty much all the setup I think I'll need. So what's the name of the person with the lowest genetic decay ratio from the field of fiction? Easiest way to do this is the old school way. Search fiction. Which number is lowest? This one. The answer is link. So let's copy that in. Considering all three dominances, how many left occurrences are there? So I want to get this converted into left or right. So let's insert 3 columns there, and I want to do, let's call this hand, foot, eye, and let's say XLOOKUP this in our table and return this. This is where that setup really helps, because if I was trying to look into the original table, it would be a little tricky. You'll notice on the hand dominance, everybody is left-handed. That's why the case is called I am left-handed. So, yeah. And then we can pull this down, and we'll see that, you know, the formula is pulled across to that. So I can use my most of lambda, which you'll have seen if you have watched my other videos. Here we have 96 left-hand occurrences. So 96. Let's just zoom in a little bit here, actually. How many times did the least frequent language appear in the table? So now we want to look up the languages. I'm actually going to do that outside the table slightly. So let's do 2 col of these letters, and then let's say XLOOKUP this in here, and we're going to return our language. And again, we can do our most of lambda here, and we can see finish is the least popular with 20 occurrences. I think it's asking for which language it is. Oh no, it's 20. Yeah, 20, okay. And then we need level 5 done to answer that, and level 6 done to answer that. So let's get into this. Looking for the foot dominance of the person. So that's a simple XLOOKUP this person in our table and return me the foot dominance. Done. Then we want to know how old each person will be in 2024. So this is kind of exactly the same thing. I'm just going to look up the name, but return their birth date, which is here. And then the only thing I need to do is take 2024 take that from 2024 to get the age. It's pretty much the same as question 1, just with one extra little step. Next up, we want to flip the letters, so we want to find foot, hand, and eye dominance. So let's just do this out here. So I want to XLOOKUP this guy again in our table, and I want to return foot, eye, and hand dominance. So we get 3 letters. We then want to flip those letters to the opposite. So if it's left, we want to flip it to right and vice versa. So I'm actually going to need to amend my table here and put all the lefts into right and all the rights into the left column. And then I have the swap, should we call it. Let's call this original. Normally I wouldn't name these, but I'm just doing it so you know you can follow along. So what I want to do is XLOOKUP that whole lot in the original. Oops, it's going weird with my mouse there, so I'll just do it with the keyboard. I should probably get used to using the keyboard a bit more anyway, because I use the mouse way too much. And that's going to flip all the letters, and then all we have to do is concat that. So far, lots of XLOOKUPs in this case. So that should be our answers, all being well. And it is. Perfect. Okay, and the next question, question 4, is saying, based on hand dominance, translate the code from the original language to the languages for each person. So Leonardo da Vinci is either going to have left or right hand. We're going to have to find out what left or right is in Hungarian. So it's going to be either one of those, J or B is going to be the answer. The problem with this question is everybody is left-handed. So all I need to actually do is find out what left is in all of these, because it's asking for hand dominance. I think the question probably should have asked for foot dominance or eye dominance, and then the question would have been a little bit more tricky. But really, all I'm doing is looking up Hungarian in this left-hand side of the table, and I'm returning what the symbol is for left. So that is very easy. In the real thing, I don't think I actually spotted that everyone was left-handed because I just rushed into the case. So what I ended up doing is just, you know, looking up that person in here, pulling out their hand dominance, and then I could look back into my table to say, okay, find that symbol, then find whether that symbol is left or right, and then I could look up, you know, that language in either the right or the left-hand table. But yeah, we'll keep it simple. Okay, this question I had trouble with in the real case as well. So this is saying if you sort the table alphabetically by name and then chronologically by birth year, so name alphabetically, birth year chronologically, then it's asking to find a person that's adjacent in the list. So if it's Charlie Chaplin, it's, you know, arts, it's either going to ask you to go up or down. It's also asking you to keep it in the same field. So the final thing you actually need to do is filter A to Z on field. So now we have everyone in arts, and they are arranged by birth year, and if the birth year is the same, then they are arranged alphabetically. So whenever you want to pull items out based on position rather than value, you're generally going to use index. So what we want to say is index this column, and we want to find the row that our person is in. So let's say X match the person in here, and that's going to give us the position. So it's just going to find them. They are in position, whatever it might be, and it's going to return them. Then what we want to do is return someone either above or below them based on whether we're going younger or older. So younger people will be after, so we want a +1 to the row, and younger people will be before, so we want a -1. So then we're going to say plus if this is younger, then what do we say? +1, otherwise -1. And we should have our answers. Again, in the original thing, I wasn't quite as smooth as this. I did like a data table, pulled out everyone from a given field, and then kind of did it that way. Okay, this is where the case gets a little bit more tricky. So we have genetic decay coming into the equation now. The premise of the question is, when someone's born, they live for 20 years before this genetic decay ratio takes effect. So on their 21st birthday, it kicks in, and the genetic decay ratio increases by 10% per year. And once it crosses a certain threshold, which is 3 for a left-eyed person and 7 for a right-eyed person, then their eye dominance will switch from left to right or vice versa. So we need to find at what year they are going to switch dominance. Now I'm going to show you the original way I did this, and I'm going to show you a much quicker way, which is kind of instructive for other cases. So let's say example 6, XLOOKUP this in here, B, and return G. So we've got Ned Flanders. So first thing we want is his eye dominance. So let's say dominance equals XLOOKUP ned in our table and give us our I dominance. We'll give it in English. Then we want his birth year. So we're going to look for him in here again, but we're going to return his birth year. And then we know takes effect 21 years from that date, so we'll plus 21. Okay, then we want the genetics K ratio. So we'll look for him again in here and pull out his decay ratio, and it's 0.91. Okay. Now what we basically want to do is keep multiplying this up by 10%, so it equals that times 1.1, so that's, you know, increasing it by 10%. And we want to do that boom, 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 year on year. And the first year that this happens is going to be the year it takes effect, and then we want to do that plus 1. So what we want to know is for left where it reaches 3 and for right where it reaches 7. So what I did originally, I said XLOOKUP 3. Well, I actually said if this equals left, then 3, otherwise 7. So we're looking for that value in this array, and we are going to return the year. However, we want exact match or next largest item. Then we get 1965. It should actually be 1966. I've done something wrong there. So let's have a look at the example. The first occurrence was in 1953. So actually the genetics K ratio, that is 1953. So let's just shift all this up 1. That might mess up my formula here. So there we go, that should be fine. So 1966. So basically I did this and did a data table. Now, there is a much more efficient way to do this with logarithms, because basically the question is asking you to multiply a number up by 1.1 a certain number of times until you hit a limit. And that's exactly what logarithms are for. So let's now do it all in here, the quick method, because that's going to really help us for question 7. For question 7, it's basically asking us to do it for multiple people and then return a code, which is the order that people change their dominance and then the average of their ages when it happens. So it's the same thing as this, just 5 times over. So, you know, you can make 5 columns for each person, do another data table and figure your answer out. But let's do it the quick way. So let's give a quick introduction to logarithms. Let's say we had 2 to the power of 3, so 2 cubed. We know that equals 8. It's 2 times 2, which is 4, times 2 again, which is 8. Now we have 3 variables, if you like, in this equation. So given 2 of them, we should always be able to figure out what the other number is. So if we were given the 8 and 3, we could do the cube root of 8. So let's just say cube root of 8. So that's our 3 and our 8. And we know that equals 2. So if you have the other 2 numbers, which were the 8 and the 2, you would do the logarithm to the base 2 of 8. So log base 2 of 8, and that equals 3. So let's quickly do this with an Excel function. So you can say equals log. We want the number is 8 and the base is 2. What this is asking is, what do we have to put 2 to the power of to get 8? And the answer is 3. Now, how we relate this to this question is we're saying, what do we have to put 1.1 to the power of? Because if you're timesing by 1.1 and then 1.1 again, that's 1.1 squared, and then 1.1 again, that's 1.1 cubed. So we want to know, to what power do we need to put 1.1 to reach 3? Or to reach 7. So let's set this up for the example. So we want to know Ned Flanders' I dominance. We want to know his genetics K ratio. Well, actually, let's do his birth year first. And then we want to know the genetics K ratio. Okay, so now we have this plus 21, that's when it's going to start. And then we want to add on the number of years it takes for this to grow to meet either 3 or 7. So let's first put our 3 or 7. So if this equals left, then 3, otherwise 7. Okay, so the equation we're looking at is 0.91, which is the genetic decay ratio, times, I'm going to write this out simply, times by 1.1 to the power of x is going to equal 3. Okay, so we want to know what the x is, which is how many years we need to do this calculation for. So to get a logarithm, like I showed earlier with the 2, 3, and 8 example, you just want the 1.1 to the power of x equals a number. So you can divide both sides of these equations by 0.91. So we just end up with 1.1 to the power of x equals 3 divided by 0.91. Then the final step is we can put this into a logarithm. So we would say log, our number is going to be 3 divided by the genetic decay ratio. So let's just actually put this in. And our base is going to be 1.1. That's what we're multiplying up. And we get 12.49. So 12.49 years from that date, you're going to get exactly 3. Obviously, we can't have partial years, so we need to round that up to 13. And you'll notice 1953 plus 13 equals 1966. So let's move that equation up here, and let's do, instead of the 3, let's link it to this. And then we've got our answer, and we want to round that up. And we want to plus on the date that it started from. And we get 1966. So I went into a lot of detail there just because I wanted to explain it. It took me a while to understand this, it took me a little while to understand this method, but it's a really good one to know for the future. If you ever have to keep multiplying something up until you get to a value, then logarithms are pretty much going to be your way to go. So let's paste our answer into there, and we are correct. Can we do any of the bonus now? So in question 5, what is the only letter that doesn't appear in all of the answers? So let's quickly do that. We want to split these into their component letters. So I have a lambda that does this, split text of that. That's going to give me all of the people. Then I can do my most of lambda again, which you've seen plenty of times now. So let's just do that, and then I can sort that to get it in alphabetical order. So now I can see we have A, B, C, D up to Q is missing, P, Q, R, so the answer is Q, which is kind of, you probably could have guessed that Q is the only letter that's not there. Based on level 6 rules, we can also do this, considering every name in the table sheet, what is the latest year any given person would change I dominance. So we have this formula here. Let's just put that into our table over here. And this is going to be looking up our person each time. There's probably a better way to do this, but I'll just do it the messy way. And I think that's correct, so we just need to come down here, find out what the max is, so equals max of this, and we get 2056. So let's put that in, 2056, great. Now time for the final question, and this is essentially the same as question 6, but with multiple people. So let's actually do this one with a data table. So example 7, we want to say xlookup example 7 in here, return here, and what we want to do is do our calculation like this for all of these people. So what we're going to say, text split this, and our row delimiter is going to be this pipe, and then we have our 5 people. Then we can just do this calculation here for those 5 people. Check that's looking to the right person, which it is, so I think we're fine there. And this question is asking for the initials ordered in the age that they change I dominance and the average of their ages. So their age is going to be the year they change I dominance minus their birth year. So nice and simple. Okay, then the question was asking the order that they changed, so let's pull out their initials, so equals left of these. That's all their initials, and then we want to sort that by, their age. So we have KLRMD, that's right, and then we want the average of their ages rounded up, so let's do equals average of their ages, and we want to round that up, so let's say round up to 0 digits, and the final answer is going to be concatenate all of their initials and a dash and the average of their ages. I missed a bracket there. So that's our answer. And let's put in the question numbers. Do a data table. Refresh it, and this should be our final answers. Okay, done. So with this logarithm method, it's super easy because it turns everything into a one-liner. You could do the data table method as well, exactly like I did here. It just gets a little messy when you get to, example 7, because you end up having 5 columns of people, and it's much more difficult to do the sort by. You'd have to add their age in, so you'd have a third column. You'd have to also pull out their age instead of the year. Then table up their age and their initials, and it would just be a longer process. So this is definitely the quickest way to do it, that I know of, and that is that. So there's one more case that I haven't uploaded, which is treasure hunt. I think I'll just film that one now because that is genuinely a 5-minute case. I think I can do it in 4 minutes something if I just blast through it. So I'll upload that one, and then we are done until the next round, which is actually tomorrow. So that was it. Like the video and subscribe if you found this beneficial, and I will see you next time.